It's like having a toddler in the house. My name is T. This is my dog Luca. He's a 2-year-old cattle dog. I also have another dog called Buddy, and he is a 3-year-old Catahoula. I have Rosie, and she is a 12-year-old Cavachon. Luca is a bit of mischief. He's always wanting attention. He's always trying to find the thing that he's not supposed to be doing. He's like having a toddler in the house. A couple of problems we're having with these dogs right now. This chap wants attention all the time from Buddy. He likes to have a really nice play fight. It can sometimes end up in a bit of dramatic fighting, and one of them will get hurt. My dream for these dogs' behaviour is to come in from work, give them a little bit of attention, and have them just be nice and chill and calm.
So one of the things I really noticed from watching these two dogs is Buddy's definitely the more chilled one. Luca is definitely the one seeking conflict. So a really common thing with this behaviour is it can come across as play, and what happens is because you view it as play, the early warning signs get missed because you think, oh, they're just playing, and then you only notice the problem by the time it's escalated. So a lot of dealing with this behaviour is really stripping it back and looking at what are the early warning signs, and also how do we prevent these things from happening in the first place. So can you tell me what their sort of daily routine is like?
Get up about 6:45, come and let Luca out the crate where he's been asleep. He gets super excited, overexcited, and then he'll come out because the two of them haven't been able to play overnight. He comes out, they bounce about, and then we go outside on the patio, and these guys play and go to the bathroom, and I go to work, and then Bear interacts with them during the day. When I come home, then we will take them for a walk, and they play and go crazy again. Then Luca goes into the crate to sleep overnight.
Okay, and what does a typical walk look like?
It's probably quite crazy as well, actually, because we let them off and then they just run wild, and then they jump in the lake and then they run again, and so that's probably all a bit crazy too.
A really common issue that people tend to have, especially when seeing behaviours like this, is what we call overstimulation behaviour. And that is basically a result of them being active constantly throughout the day. So when you go online and you Google looking after dogs, a lot of the emphasis is on walks all the time, walks and exercise. So what it leads to is this mindset of we've got to be exercising them all the time. But actually what can happen is it creates a lot of frustration, and it creates this sort of level of overstimulation constantly. Because in dogs, what happens is every time they do something exciting, whether that's playing, going for a walk, even just playing ball outside, they're going to get a spike in adrenaline and cortisol, which both cause obviously stress and the fight or flight response. So what happens is when that adrenaline builds and builds and builds, it stays in their system and they find it really hard to calm down. And what happens is you're just building on top of a baseline which is already overstimulated. And that can then cause to lots of different behavioural problems. So what the main issue normally is you've got that underlying overstimulation, but because it presents as little things, so that might be barking or fighting with the other dog in the household, it feels like you've got a lot of issues when really there's sort of one overarching issue.
It's weird because you think that if you wear them out, they're going to be worn out and then sleep.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of the time when we're doing that, we're only exercising them with their body in mind. And what happens is, one, they build up a tolerance to it, so they're going to constantly need more and more and more to feel tired. But also you're pumping them full of that adrenaline, so it's just going to lead to worse and worse behaviour. So what we want to do is switch to a routine where we're really encouraging rest, and when we are exercising them, we're being really mindful of the kind of exercise that they're getting, but also focusing on stimulating their brain rather than just exercising their body. So the first thing we want to do when looking at reducing overstimulation is changing up how the walk looks. So rather than it being all about just getting out and going crazy and running around, the easiest way to start reducing that is to make the route on the way to where you're going really calm and on the way back really calm. So rather than just coming out and marching up to the park, I always like to start with a calming exercise. The easiest one is the up and down game. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show him that I've got some food. I'm going to pop it up behind my back and I'm going to wait for him to look at me. So because he's getting frustrated, you can see that there's already that underlying stimulation. So rather than waiting for him, I'm going to help him out and I'm going to make it really quick. So I'm going to look at me, yes, and down to the floor. Look at me, yes. Look at me. Yes. Look at me. Yes. I'm gonna take any form of attention because you can see right now his brain is going 10 million miles an hour. Yeah, so he's looking at literally everything else. So I'm gonna really wait for him. Look at me. Yes. Look at me. I'm gonna help him out again. Yes! And we're gonna do this until he is pretty much looking at me. Yes, good boy. And then what we can do to mix it up is rather than getting him to somewhere to let him off, if we make the whole walk about engaging with each other and doing things calm, his brain's gonna be tired because he's gonna have had that stimulation, but he's not gonna be really riled up from it. So when you then go back in, it's gonna be a lot easier to get him to calm down. So what we can do is just a little bit of heel walking. And because he's already focused on me, it should be a little bit easier. So all I'm gonna do is, as he gets to the end of the lead, I'm gonna turn, let's go. I'm gonna say, let's go. As he catches up to my hip, I'm gonna mark yes. Then I'm gonna grab a treat and feed him right here next to my leg. Good boy, let's go. Good boy, yes. So I'm using good boy as praise to just let him know I like generally what he's doing, and then yes is a reward marker. Yes. And you see how he's nice and focused on me, and this is gonna get his brain really working. Let's go. Good boy. Good boy. So I'm gonna now do a few good boys and then a yes and then a treat. Good job. Let's go. Good boy. Good boy. Good job. Yes. And a lot of the time people think that, okay, well, if they're just walking nicely on lead, they're not getting all that stimulation and they're not gonna be tired. But actually, because it's working their brain, it's gonna get him more tired. So do you wanna give that a try? Let's go. Let's go. Luca, let's go. Yes. Let's go. Let's go. Come on. Yes, come on. Yes. Good boy. Yes. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Yes. Good boy. Here. Yes. Good boy. Good boy. Ready? Let's go. Good boy. Good boy. Yes. Good boy. Good boy. Yes.
If he gets distracted like that, go straight into
Okay.
your let's go.
Let's go. Yes, good boy. Let's go. Good boy. Yes. Good boy.
Another thing that's just as important as what you do on the walk is what you do after the walk, because as we mentioned before, when you go out, it's going to create that adrenaline spike. So what you do after the walk can really control how much that adrenaline spikes or whether we can bring it back down again. So I really like to have a calming routine post-walk, and the best option for things like that is anything that involves licking. So chewing things can actually help to rile them back up again, whereas
really?
licking always calms the
So not
brain.
chew a bone or anything like that?
No, I would always go for something licking, because the action of licking in dogs releases dopamine in the brain, which helps to counteract the
I wonder
effects
if
of that
that's why
adrenaline.
he licks Buddy.
It can be. Sometimes it's almost like a stress relief thing for themselves when they get really pent up and they don't know what to
I'm
do.
gonna lick you.
Yeah, they use basically
Yeah.
it's called self-soothing, where they'll lick at things to help themselves feel soothed. It could also just be because he wants his attention, and that's
Yeah,
an easy way
I
to
think
get
that's
his
probably what it
attention.
is,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I always like to opt for things like a Kong or a licky mat, where you can put something on, and you can either use a portion of their food, you can use peanut butter like we've got, or anything that's sort of that consistency. So frozen yogurt works nicely as well. And the best thing to do is get it and stick it in the crate, close the door and let him have a bit of a rest,
Right.
so that he's then not going and fussing Buddy to wind himself back up again. And then once he's had a good sleep in the crate, that's when you can then let him out, and I would immediately then start doing something calm. So anytime he's active, other than on his walk, you're really trying to focus on that calm. So let's pop him in his crate. So another really important part of managing multi-dog households is management, which is basically preventing the rehearsal of these unwanted behaviours. So this comes in a few different aspects. The first is making sure that they've got structured time away from each other. So whether that's time in the crate, they're just in different rooms, it's important that they can have that time apart so that they're not just riling each other right up. It's also really important that whenever they are together, you've got a backup plan. So whether that's a harness on, a lead on, something that allows you to gain control of them before they start to escalate things. And I would really start to watch for the early warning signs. So I would start to really look at their body language and notice when things are escalating. So when we look at balanced play and good play, it's always two-sided and it should always be invitational. So it might be a play bow or come and play with me. Whereas a lot of what Luca is doing is I'm going to climb on top of you and I'm going to provoke you into a reaction. So anything like that, the first thing you want to do is try and redirect that attention. So whether that's picking up his lead and walking him away or calling him over to you and just getting him to do something simple like a sit, it's always worth breaking that apart before it escalates. Another exercise that can be worth doing is in the evening when you're having a bit of downtime, just sitting with them both on a lead in the living room with you, but have one dog each and just reinforce them for settling on a bed or something like that. Because right now the association is when we're together, it's crazy. It's all play, it's all hyped up. Whereas if you start to change that and make them think, actually, when we're together, we can do calm things, you'll have to be less in control. You can quite safely let them have more freedom and they're much more likely to choose to be calm rather than to be at each other. So once you've got that routine in place, then we can reevaluate and see how they're getting on, because until we've got that baseline of calmness, any training that you do on top of that is just going to be going straight over their head. Yeah. So it's really important to get that routine sorted, and then once they're nice and calm and chilled and in the routine of that, then we can come back and look at implementing some training.
Like this video if you found it helpful, and for more dog training tips, subscribe to my channel.